So question 16 was probably one of the more difficult ones of your paper, and it's worth 11 marks, okay? So what we've got here is question 16 is about a dice game, all right? Now, the aim of the game is to get as close to the score of 21 as possible without going over 21. So in other words, you've got to make sure that you're trying to get the score 21. If your score goes over 21, then you lose. So there's a rule there that you need to think about, all right? So there's a rule that is going to be needed somewhere as part of your selection. That's what that's saying, okay? The player's score starts at 0. That means that you should have somewhere at the beginning of your code started your code and set up your variables as 0. There should be somewhere, it's telling you a mark there, all right? For each turn, 2 dice are rolled, all right? Each numbered from 1 to 6. The total of the 2 dices are added to the player's score. So this links to this. All right, so the total of the 2 dice are added to this. The value of each dice and the player's new total is output. Always do a big ring around the word output because there's usually a mark for an output. Whether what it outputs is wrong, like if your maths or your, whether any of your, like the way you've added it together is wrong, you still get your mark for your output. So don't throw it away. If the current score is less than 21, the player is asked if they would like to roll the dice again. So if, look, it's giving you an if statement there to use. If the current score is less than 21, the player is asked if they would like to roll the dice again. If the player says yes, then they will get another turn. That, to me, says there's iteration there of some sort. Look, and again, the way to spot the type of iteration to use is the word if. That tells me there's going to be a while loop, okay? Because it says then they get to go again, they get another turn. That is a while loop. So now's where we get our requirements. If the final score is 21, output the message to say they've won. Final score is greater. So we've got, look, this is your if-else structure here. Now this, are you listening? Notice it's come after this. This means it's likely to not be inside your while loop. Now, it gives you examples of how this program should work. So for example, if I get a 1 and a 4, current score is 5. Do you want to roll again? Yes, I do. It's showing you the logic. Alright, now it's added that 7 to that 5, which gives you 12. Do you want to roll again? Yes, I do. Alright, so 12 plus 1 and 2 is 15. But then what happens here? It's gone over the score. It's like a game of like chance. Alright, now let me show you how the answer is, what it is, and why. Alright, now the good thing about this is they weren't actually too pedantic. They know that in Python, how many of you use randint? A lot of you use randint to do that, all right? So if you look on the mark scheme, it says accept random int for this. So if you've done that, then you should have the mark. So what I've got here is import random. Then, remember I said you set up your score as 0. That's over here. You're then going to say roll again equals yes. Now my reason for doing this is because I want the game to continue playing unless I say no. So I'm setting up a trigger. I'm setting up something that's like, I mean, some of you may have said roll again true, that means it's always true, okay? But now this is the bit where I say while roll again it is equal to yes. Best way to remember it, that I always like in my head make a point of saying is equal. That's how I always remember to put two down when I'm doing comparisons. Now, here's some marks. I've got to generate the two dice. So I'm going to say dice 1 equals random dot rand range 1 to 7. It accepts 1 to 6 as well. Alright, as you can see in the mark scheme. Dice 2 equals random dot rand range 1 to 7. Now that is giving you, alright, the numbers here. So for example, that could be equal to 1. That could be equal to 4. Alright, that's what's going to be allocated in those. Now the part of our game that checks the score, alright, well we can't check it yet. We've got to add those together. Alright, but our score was originally set to 0. So we need to now check what our score is going to be. So I'm going to say score equals score plus dice 1 plus dice 2. Now the logic here is I want to see what those are. Remember, refer back to this. This is what should be output. I need to see what those scores are and say what it is. So look back at the figure to give you the help. Well, I need to see what roll 1 is, what roll 2 is, this current score, and then I'm going to ask them if they want to roll again. So here I'm going to say print roll 1 plus, alright, now I'm going to say plus str dice 1. Now that's slightly different to the mark scheme. I'm doing it to show you both ways, because if you use printf you don't need to worry about the conversion so much, okay? So print roll 2 plus str dice 2. That's now printed out. What is dice 1? What is dice 2? I'm going to do the current score. Print current score plus str score. Alright, so that's now printing out the first one, the second one, the score. Now, this is the clincher, alright? If the score, alright, is less than 21, then my game is going to give them the option. Alright? If score is less than 21, alright, you might have put a print here, alright, if you wanted to, alright. I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to ask you, you might have said print, do you want to roll again? No, I should have put that in there. Right. So it's asking me, do you want to roll again? And then roll again equals input. Else. Can you see how I'm using the lines to help me line things up? Yeah? make use of those lines. Else, all right, roll again equals no. All right, you don't need the end if, because this is just going to keep asking me now, right? So if I say, do I want to roll again, it's going to generate that random number, add them together, and if the score is less than 21, it's going to ask me if I want to roll again. Else, it's going to set to no. So if that's set to no, that loop finishes. Yeah, because that's a condition change there. That condition, roll again, is linked to this up here. All right? Those conditions, while loops, depend on what the condition's going to be. And if that condition's changed to no, that is no longer true, therefore it's going to jump here. Alright? So when that becomes no, it's like, I don't need this anymore, and it's going to jump here. This is how while loops work, alright? Now, this is where, if they've said no, you still need to check whether their score's over 21 or not. So that's why another if statement was needed. Just because it jumps out of that loop doesn't mean that it's wrong, right or wrong. You've got to do your final checks. So now, while loop, I'm no longer in the while loop. That's why I start on this line here. Okay? Because inside the while loop is something different. But outside of it, what we're going to do is we're going to go if score is greater than 21, then you're going to say print you lost. All right. Else if score is equal to 21, print you win. All right. Else, all right, I'm going to do my last if statement, which says over here, look, if this number is greater than the player's final score, output that they've lost, all right, but here it says if it's less than 21, the program generates a random number between 15 and 21. If this is part of this, if this number, so that's telling you've got selection there that moves in, you know, nested selections. So that's why we've got an else and another if inside that. If random range, a lot of people forgot this bit, 15 to 22 is greater than score. Here we go, look, so it's generating the number between, and it says inclusive as well, between 15 and 21. That's why we got the 22 there. So it's inclusive. Print you lost. Else print you won. Now the reason why that is a part of it is this last bullet point here. It says if the final score is less than 21, because if it's not greater than 21 and it's not equal to 21, it is less than 21, right? It generates a random number between 15 and 22. That's what's happening here. If that random number is greater than the final score, look, greater than the final score, output a message to say that they've lost. Otherwise, output to say that they've won. So look out for these bullet points because they sometimes will help you. You can see there how I've had to indent and do my next if. That's kind of been given away there with you a little bit there. All right, the way that it's written in the question, it shows that that if is part of that if. Can you see how it's done? Look, I've got an if statement here, but then inside I've got another if. And that will help you. So look out for that when you're looking at exam questions. So in terms of where the marks are coming from, you should see on the mark scheme that I've given you a copy of, where you get part A's. You can see what they want to do is they give you a mark for attempting to generate the two random numbers. So there's a mark for that. All right. There's also a mark for selection to check the current score against 21. There we go. There's part B there. All right. Part C for using iteration. Mark C, I've used iteration with a while loop. Doesn't matter if you get it wrong. If you look at the mark scheme, you get marks for program design. And mark D for outputting the dice rolls in appropriate places. So they must be, all right, after it's been generated, basically, not at the end down here somewhere. All right. If you look at the rest of the mark scheme, it's to do with the logic, which is what we've talked about here and how your selection works and how this if statement shouldn't be inside this loop. It's separate. It's once the game's ended we do all those checks, remember? So I understand it's a long video, but watch it back. All right, if you want to, you can attempt your question again and see where you get that wrong, okay?